we don't feel satisfied. So in our pursuit to feel satisfied, we pick up other things like sex, like food, like drugs, right? And we know that it doesn't bring a permanent happiness, but it gets us through the day because we're just trying to feel better, man. Life is hard, right? So you actually build up a resentment for yourself, for where your life has gone, the reason why you have no peace, the reason why relationships don't work out. You hold a lot of anger because you're confused. Once you realize you have this anger, oftentimes we don't realize where it comes from, and it comes from the parents. I just wanted to explain a little bit briefly what it means to forgive and where this emotional conflict comes from. I'm gonna read an article. It's brief. I'm gonna get through it quick. It's a little article that I read that was so deep, and it talks about why we end up falling into this emotional turmoil and conflict. The article title is "The Asleep." I don't even know where I found it. I can't even give you the source. I found it, then I lost it, but I wrote it down, so I'm gonna read it. This comes from the perspective as a child. It says, we live in the survival era. So the era that we live in right now, it's a survival era. People are just living to survive. We grow up without good examples and instructions, so we're not led on how to live a great life. We're just in survival mode. And the reason why we're in survival mode is because we're lost. Nobody's teaching us or guiding us how to live properly. We're lost and we're in the dark trying to get through each day. In the pursuit, you discover things that bring you immediate satisfaction. Seeing another little girl in the classroom, whether that be finding candy, you find out these things that bring you satisfaction in your pursuit of being lost, right? As a little kid. The question when you find this candy or this little girl or whatever you want to put in that place, the question is never, is it good? Is it good for me? It's more, I found something that works. This is the part of life when we jump into the driver's seat of our feelings and our emotions. And as we uncover what our emotions are capable of, we begin to use them for our benefit. With no wisdom of what we found or how to properly navigate through these things, this is how we survive, living life through the lens of our feelings and emotions. And that's the end of the article. But it's so true. We're lost as children. We don't know where to go. All we see is our only influencers, our main influencers, which is mostly our parents to begin with, but it can be society, it can be school, it can be cousins, whatever, right? But first our parents. We see our influencers doing all the wrong things, so we have picked that up, right? And we don't feel satisfied, so in our pursuit to feel satisfied, we pick up other things like sex, like food, like drugs, right? And we know that it doesn't bring a permanent happiness, but it gets us through the day because we're just trying to feel better, man. Life is hard, right? So we adopt those things and we live our life around that. And it all stemmed from our parents not leading us, our parents not guiding us, our parents not being an example of what the right way looks like. So you actually build up a resentment in yourself, for where your life has gone, the reason why you have no peace, the reason why relationships don't work out. And you hold a lot of anger because you're confused. So once you realize you have this anger, oftentimes we don't realize where it comes from. And it comes from the parents because the parents didn't do their job as parents to lead you and guide you. But it's also not their fault, right? Because they're just as broken from their parents and the generations above it, right? So the purpose of forgiveness is understanding that, yes, you resent the person that may have put this anger, that influenced this anger in you, but you forgive them because you understand that you're wrong for having a hatred or anger or resentment to somebody else who's also broken. That's what forgiveness is knowing that they can't help it. They're lost too. And when you understand that is when you truly forgive. And that's when you're set free because you realize, wow, resentment is evil. How am I resenting somebody who is also broken just like me? Now, it doesn't mean you don't make somebody take responsibility, like tell your parents, like, I didn't like that you did this to me, like, because that helps them take accountability for the mistakes they made, right? But you don't hold it against them because you know that they're just broken and they do evil things. Broken people do evil things, right? And you don't want to just forgive for the sake of forgiving because you're so desperate to be free. That was my first time forgiving. I just was so desperate to be free. I just went and forgave, but it wasn't proper. You want to forgive when you truly recognize that, wow, this is evil, that I'm giving them back what they gave me. When they're just broke, they're broken. Everybody broken, man. We don't have the right. That's why it says in the Bible, love your enemy. Because it's easy to love people who love you. Love your enemy. And you love your enemy by realizing that they're broken too. Doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable. Doesn't mean you don't defend yourself when you need to defend yourself. Doesn't mean you don't criticize in the right moment to criticize, right? But you, most importantly, understand. And that understanding allows you to love your enemy because God gives us that God has that understanding for us. That's why he doesn't hate us. Well, God was angry. God was angry, but he wasn't angry because you can't have anger in understanding. Anger doesn't exist in understanding because anger is only a judgment based off of somebody blaming somebody as if they're responsible. Not flesh and blood, not your neighbor. We're called to love all. And love is dealing with people still. Love is not just all huggy and kissy. There's tough love. But that's what forgiveness is about. And when you forgive, you see all of this. All of this is understandable. All of this makes sense. And then you watch it happen, watch it unfold. And it doesn't mean that's not hard. It doesn't mean there's still not no struggles. It doesn't mean all that stuff, but God, it's just beautiful. It makes everything beautiful. Everything is just, I don't even know how to explain it. But I'm just grateful that God didn't let me lose myself because I was going down the path that everybody else goes down. But God was like, not you. And I'm grateful for that. And my life is changing. I can feel God's presence in me. I know he's with me. I can see. I'm becoming more and more free. And only those who know. That's what the entire world is missing. That part, the forgiveness part. And their life is going to freaking change. It's simple. I didn't say it's easy, but it's simple. It's very simple. But nobody knows it. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. Because nobody knows that it's as simple. Your life can change when you forgive. And it only goes for those who's seeking, though, because if you're not seeking, you're not even going to realize why you need to forgive, that you have resentment, that resentment is evil. You're not going to realize these things unless you're truly seeking, right? So that's why I said it's not as easy as just getting up and go doing it. But it's simple. You got to forgive. And there's a whole new lifestyle on the other side.